I'm mad at Mulan. Not the warrior princess. She's cool. I mean the Disney movie. The animated Mulan claims to be all about empowering women to do whatever they want. It's true. I am amazed that Mulan could take off a full face of makeup with a single gesture. Disney magic. But for a film that presents itself as progressive, remember its catchiest song, I'll Make a Man Out of You. In it, we learned that men are swift, forceful, strong, and mysterious. But what about women? Even after Disney Mulan saves all of China, when she goes home, her grandmother complains that she should have brought home a husband instead. Now, this sort of muddling messaging is typical of modern reactions to a controversial word. You know, some people are afraid of even saying it in public. The F word. Feminist. As the BBC reported in February of 2019, only a minority of respondents, both male and female, identified as feminists. At its core, feminism advocates for women's rights to ensure social, legal, and political equality between the sexes, and the fact that this belief is controversial. The idea so that men like me aren't comfortable saying we're feminists cuts to my main concern. If we don't embrace meaningful feminism, we're harming both women and men. So to unsheath the sword of this pointed topic, we'll begin with why so many people are afraid to call themselves feminists. Next, analyze the harms of not marching with this movement, before finally, we'll unpack some solutions. Because as much as Mulan's cartoon grandma was obsessed with honor, in the real world, we can't sustain honor without equity, and we can't spell feminism without man. So when we think about why Mulan's female characters unironically sing about how all men love obedient women with tiny waists, here's the reason. Both its directors were men. That's symptomatic of the reasons why so many of us don't call ourselves feminists. Because both women and men are pressured against it by institutional and interpersonal forces. Well, first, our institutions are not female-friendly. The documented sexism in our workforce is atrocious. I mean, we've all heard of how women who succeed in companies are accused of sleeping their way to the top. And even when some women do make it big, they're likely to either hit the glass ceiling, where they're less likely to be promoted by management, or fall off the glass cliff, where they're more likely to get that promotion from the management to take over a doomed company and then be blamed when it comes under. Beyond the boardrooms, feminists are called men haters, hysterical, and out of touch. And of course, the claims that we have already achieved equality and that feminists should be grateful, sit down, and shut up have been made for over a century in America alone. The forces that try to convince our young people that feminists are uncool have been at it since women first tried to vote. And finally, they're winning. But on an interpersonal level, men are discouraged from calling themselves feminists. I mean, think about that Mulan song, I'll Make a Man Out of You. If being a man means being so strong, so tough, so rugged, what does it mean to be a woman? Instead of strong, weak. Instead of tough, frail. Instead of rugged, fragile. So when a guy claims to be a feminist, in the eyes of many, he's choosing to surrender his manhood. He's a simp, he's a cuck, he's a weak-kneed, confused little girl. Men internalize these messages, and so many of us just decided that we'd rather be a part of the patriarchy than be called a pussy. In Mulan, the good guys trick the evil invaders by dressing up as women and surprise attacking them. However, the harms of not embracing feminism is sadly unsurprising. Specifically, we both silence female concerns and stifle male self-reflection. Initially, when we don't call ourselves feminists, We perpetuate patriarchal problems. I mean, think about the Me Too campaign, which caught attention to sexual harassment, discrimination, and traumatic issues for billions of women worldwide. The trending male response didn't come from a place of empathy, sadness, or understanding, because those traits were unfortunately too female. Instead, men got defensive. The hashtag #NotAllMen campaign emerged, distractingly arguing that they didn't do anything wrong and shouldn't be included in the societal conversation. The responses from female was saddening, that whether or not all men actively harmed women, hashtag yes, all women have suffered the impact of harassment, the lack of inclusive, open, and yes, feminist discourse in male-dominated spaces leads to comical levels of oppression. I mean, think about this. As the New York Times reported, in America, there are just about as many women CEOs as there are men CEOs named John. I mean, think about that. That's not an accident. Every system is perfectly designed, intentionally or not, to achieve the outcomes it gets. But it's not only women who suffer. When we men aren't comfortable calling ourselves feminists and risking being called unmanly, we stifle our own expression, emotions, and evolution. It's easy for men to feel defensive around these issues. I get it. But it's not your fault that you grew up in a sexist society. I mean, if we breathe polluted air every day of our lives, we shouldn't be shocked when it harms our health. So the problem isn't about who's to blame. It's about why men should care about fixing it. And we should. We should care that hearing so many messages of how men are strong sends the signal that women are weak. We should care when our soccer coaches tell us not to cry like girls. We should care when our friends try to get ourselves in harm's way, thinking we're fighting to feel more like men. We should care when the top response to a Reddit question about the hardest part of being a boy reads, anytime you want to express your emotions, you are called a pussy. We should care when the most insulting thing you could call a man is a part of a woman. And it's real. I've lived it. I love my grandma. We spent most of my early years together. She passed away when I was 7, and I cried. My father came to me, patted on my shoulders, and told me that I shouldn't cry because I am a man. At that moment, I realized it is not that we, as men, shouldn't cry, but rather we, as men, don't deserve to cry. We're not allowed to. Being a boy is being trapped in a cage, and anti-feminist boy means fighting to stay inside. I'm not saying that all feminists are committed to gender equity like they should be, or that they're perfect role models. I'm not saying that just using the word feminist will fix everything, but reclaiming that word for the sake of helping both our boys and girls is a crucial first step towards creating a society that works for all sexes. Recently, Disney remade Mulan, focusing on dealing with those sexist messages and empowering more females in the production process. So let's remake ourselves into proud feminists in 3 ways: commitment, cognizance, and courage. First, we'll make a commitment. Just hop online to the United Nations He4She website to access folders full of information for both men and women on the key ways to embrace a more feminist mindset. Second, we'll become more cognizant. We'll catch ourselves when we use sexist language and remind our friends there are better words to use. And finally, we'll be courageous. We'll be brave and proud enough to say, I am a feminist. We'll write it on our social media profile and then post positive things for the feminist movement. Because according to a research done by Professor Robin Roy from the University of Vermont, that among 400 participants, twice as many of them identified as feminists after being exposed to positive portrayals of feminists. So be the role models you wish to see in a movement. In Mulan, male soldiers sing about having a girl worth fighting for. But women aren't prizes to be won in battle. Instead, we need to sing about a society worth fighting for, where both women and men are proud to call ourselves feminists. Thank you.